I'm gonna teach you how to learn Japanese so fast your friends will stop recognizing you. No, I'm serious. When I use these tips, my parents stopped recognizing me. I went from a 6-foot black guy to a 5-foot Japanese person. When I tried to go home, I knocked on my door and my parents were home. And they opened the door and they looked at me like, what the heck? They said, hey, but I can only say konnichiwa. And then they were like, who are you? And I'm like, konnichiwa, o genki desu ka? And then they're like, yo, they just slammed the door on my face. I had to stop studying for about 2 weeks so that I could revert back to my normal self. That's how strong these tips are. And you have to be careful because if you use these tips, you might turn into a Japanese person. So I'm gonna teach you these. Okay, I can't hold the teapot. So I was obviously kidding about that, but I'm not kidding about the fact that I speak Japanese. I actually have JLPTN1. I used to work in a Japanese company. And I used to live in Japan for a couple of years. So I learned how to speak Japanese in all different types of settings. I don't say this to be a braggadocious butthole, but I just think that you deserve to know what kind of experiences I have so that you can decide whether or not you want to continue watching this video. Another thing is, I want to show you guys that I actually know how to speak Japanese. だって日本語を勉強する一番効果的な方法を皆さんに教えたいみたいな動画がたくさんあると思うんですけれども、実際に自分が日本語で話している姿を誰にも見せないから、僕はこの人ちゃんと日本語話せるのかなっていうふうに疑問に思ってしまいますよね。やっぱり皆さんもそうかもしれないので、一応日本語で話したいと思います。これからちょっと英語に変えるんですけれども、これは日本語ができるという証拠として皆さんに日本語で話したいと思ったんですよ。So, let's actually get into these tips. So these are tips that a lot of people don't talk about, but they're extremely effective. The first one is mnemonics. What the heck are mnemonics? That sounds like a French word or something. Let me go ahead and break it down a bit. Mnemonics are things that you use to create an association with a word. So it could be an image, it could be a certain pattern, it could be another word that you use to remember a word. Okay, so there was once this word that I could not remember for the life of me, and that word was hisashiburi, right? Like that's hisashiburi. That's 5 freaking characters. That is a lot. Up until that point, all I knew was like genki or like ohayo, you know, all these basic things. And then hisashiburi came out. 5 characters. And I was like, this is like the final boss. There's no way I can remember this word. I tried flashcards, no good. I tried Anki, no good. So defeated, I went onto my laptop and I looked up, how do I stop being an idiot and actually remember words? And what came out was mnemonics. So again, mnemonics are ways that you create association with words so that you can remember them a lot easier. Those associations could be memories, it could be patterns, it could be a lot of different things. One of the reasons why immersion is so important is because your experience in a country becomes fodder to create mnemonics. So for example, if I see Tanaka-san and he's talking to like Suzuki-san, and Tanaka-san hasn't seen Suzuki-san in like 50 years. I don't know. They like were long lost brothers and like they finally reunited. And then Tanaka-san looks at Suzuki-san and he's like, Hisashiburi! And I see Tanaka-san saying that to Suzuki-san. I'm going to remember that word a lot quicker because I have an association with it. I have this emotional memory that I created seeing Tanaka-san and Suzuki-san after being reunited for 50 years. Obviously, you're not going to see something like that in Japan, but you're going to see different moments and different memories that are going to help you remember words. It's okay. You don't have to be in Japan to use mnemonics. You can create your own mnemonics based on your own words, your own patterns, and your own experiences. So, hisashiburi. Let's get back to the word hisashiburi. How the heck did I remember this word? So I thought to myself, okay, hisashiburi. What are the things that this word reminds me of? So I said, okay, he. He is he, like him. Sa is saw, like see, right? Sa, he saw. She is she, like her. Buri, like butt, booty. Hisashiburi, he saw she booty. He saw her booty. Hisashiburi. It's been a long time since he saw her booty. Oh my goodness, that actually like works. As soon as I made that little funny story, I remember the word without ever thinking about it again. Hisashiburi. It's been a long time since he saw her booty. And then I started applying that to other words, and it works for me perfectly. Another thing you could do with mnemonics is use similar sounding words to remember a new word. So for example, kawaii. I think you all know that word, right? I mean, it's like everywhere. And kawaii. So I have this story. So one time I tried to put my Japanese to the test, right? I said, all right, there's this cute girl. I said, all right, I'm gonna tell this girl, I'm gonna muster up my Japanese and I'm gonna tell this girl she's cute. And I start walking up to her. I say, konnichiwa. And she's looking at me with a very blank face. And I say, kimi wa kawaii desu ne. And then she looked at me like, what? And I'm like, Kimi wa kawaii desu ne? And then she's like, come here, don't you. I'm kidding. She didn't slap me. But I noticed that I said the wrong word. I wanted to say kawaii, but I said kawaii. And kawaii means scary. I never forgot the word after that. Those, for me though, are two words that I remember because they sound similar. Obviously, you don't want to mix them up, but you can use that as a tip. Say, okay, kawaii, kawaii, right? And as I'm going to tell you later on, making mistakes is actually one of the best things you could do, right? Like you should not be afraid of failure. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that is actually one of the most essential parts of learning a language is making a ton of mistakes, like telling a girl that she's scary instead of cute and subsequently getting slapped. Well, don't get slapped. Anyways, so mnemonics, this is a very important tool because it's creating memorable connections between the word and your brain and your experiences, right? If you're just using Anki all day or memorizing by flashcards, it's going to be really hard to remember stuff, especially the difficult words. So I would recommend that you use this mnemonic method and hopefully don't use it too much or you might turn into a 5-foot Japanese person. The second method that I like to use is shadowing. Just like shadow boxing, you know? Just got to box Japanese people. That's how you get better. I'm just kidding. Don't box Japanese people. That will not end well. I think a lot of you have heard of shadowing before, but I like to use shadowing a little bit differently than most people. So let me explain what it is. Shadowing is repeating what you hear a native speaker say with the same cadence, rhythm, and intonation. What that does for you is it makes you sound more native because you're using the same intonations as native speakers. It also helps with fluency and speed in speech, because you're practicing words together instead of one at a time. I think this is a very effective method. What I do is I choose someone specifically to follow and shadow. So I might choose a celebrity, for instance, and I will go on their YouTube page or access some of the interviews that they've done, and I will try to shadow just them for a long period of time, like over months, so that I can sound like that person. I find that to be a little bit more effective than just shadowing with a bunch of different people because people speak differently. They have different intonations. Some tips for shadowing: take notes, note down the areas that you find most difficult and focus on that. Don't just focus on your strengths. Let's say that the speaker says, "Kyou wa genki desu ka?" You're like, "Kyou wa genki? Kyou wa genkei? Kyou wa genku desu ka?" It's like, all right, you go with the kyou wa, and you can probably say desu ka, but genki, you're obviously struggling with that. So focus on that part. Just say that word. Say it over and over and over. Genku, 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 and then you say genki. Once you finally have genki, then try to say kyou wa o genki, and then say the whole thing. Kyou wa o genki desu ka? It's going to eliminate a lot of the frustration because if you just try to do the full sentence the entire time, it's going to be very difficult to get because you're not focusing on the part that you don't understand. Shadowing is fantastic. Shadow, shadow, shadow. You're going to sound a lot better. The third tip that I have is to use the language as much as possible. There are apps out there like HelloTalk, italki that you can talk to people for free and use chat rooms. You really have to step outside of your comfort zone. And I know that it sucks. I know that it's scary, but this is one of the most important parts of language study. I understand that it might feel very cringe to say the same sentence over and over again and no one understands what you're saying. I get it. I've been there. But you have to continue. Ask questions. If you're in a room with a Japanese person and they have no idea what you're saying, assuming that they speak English, you ask them, what part of that was hard to understand? I was trying to say this. How can I fix my pronunciation so that I'm intelligent? Ask those questions. Don't just sink into like this depression just because like people don't understand what you're saying. I get it. It's really hard. It's really hard to fail in front of people and to sound like an idiot, but you have to sound like an idiot. And I've seen it happen before. I was the ultimate idiot. I made so many mistakes, but I just kept going. When I was in Japan or when I was on these chat rooms, there were times where I got into a chat room and I try to say like, "Oh, minasan o genki desu ka?" And there's like 10 people in the chat room. And as soon as I say that, it's just silent. Everyone's like, "Yo, what's this guy trying to say?" Even worse, that's happened to me in real life. So I tried to say something to a Japanese person once. I was like, konnichiwa, kyou wa genki desu ka? But I obviously said it in like a very bad accent. And they were like, oh, English, no English. I was like, I'm speaking in Japanese, man. What do you mean? So I know what it's like to be disheartened. It's difficult. I know. It's cringe. I know. But remember, you're probably not going to talk to that Oji-san ever again. If you do, you made a mistake. It's really not that big of a deal. 5 years from now, you're going to speak a lot better if you continue, and you're going to look back at that memory and be like, that was so silly. Look how dumb I was before. Now I'm actually like kind of okay. All right, well, I hope you guys found these 3 tips helpful. These are by no means the only tips to get better at Japanese. I have a ton of tips, but these are 3 that I don't see people talking about too much, so I wanted to introduce them to you and give my own twists on how I use them. They've helped me a lot, and hopefully they can help you. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!